Alfred Bosworth Child, farmer, postmaster, merchant, and pioneer. Beloved Alfred Bosworth Child was born November 15, 1796 in Greenfield, Saratoga County, New York, the second of 12 children from a distinguished English family. His ancestral roots grew deep in American soil. His ancestors had come to America from England in the 1630s to Watertown, Massachusetts. He was 16 when he heard the war stories from his grandfather, Increased Child, about the American Revolution and the French and Indian War. He married Polly Barber March 19, 1817 in Greenfield, New York. They had 3 children die in infancy. They moved to Boonville, Oneida County, New York. Both Alfred and Polly were educated people. They moved to Chippewa Bay Township of Hammond, St. Lawrence County, New York. Alfred was a postmaster for 6 years and commissioner of schools. In 1838, an elder, George E. Blakesley, taught him the gospel, and in June 5, 1838, Alfred, Polly, and oldest children were baptized in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the Chippewa Bay of the St. Lawrence River. August 11, 1838, Alfred and Polly loaded up their 8 children, ages 1 to 17 years old, and set out on a 450-mile trip to Kirtland, Ohio, with few supplies, wagon, and an abundance of faith. Warren Gould Child records one day in Ohio a strange man blessed their family. Later it was confirmed by the prophet Joseph Smith, Jr. He was one of the 3 Nephites that did not taste death. They arrived in the abandoned city of Kirtland, saw the temple, and learned that the saints had left a few days prior. The saints were gathering 900 miles away in Missouri. They arrived in late fall to endure one of the most inhumane chapters of church history, the cruel expulsion of 8,000 saints from Missouri. They temporarily stayed in Adam Adin Ahman, a city of tents and wagons. They bought land in Shoal Creek, Caldwell County, but it was short-lived due to the constant persecution by the villainy. Alfred and his oldest son were taken prisoner with the prophet Joseph Smith. The mob took his wagon and horse and demanded he surrender the deed to his land, which he refused. They had to flee in the cold of winter in February to travel to Quincy, Illinois. Their hearts bled, with their feet having worn out their shoes. Polly wrote, quote, "When we got to the river, the ice was running so that we could not cross. Consequently, we had to camp there for the next 3 weeks. I will not attempt to describe the suffering of the saints up to that time." End quote. Alfred rented a 160-acre farm 6 miles west of Nauvoo Commerce in Lee County, Iowa. Springtime brought new hope. Alfred and sons planted a large garden and orchards in Spring Prairie, and many other saints moved in the area. He constructed a store and obtained a charter for a post office, the Ambrosia Ward of Zarahemla State. Often they would take a small boat and go to Nauvoo for conference. The news reached us one day of the martyrdom of the prophet Joseph Smith in Hiram. He attended their funeral, and it was a very unsure time for the saints. Alfred and Polly received their endowments on February 7, 1846 in the Nauvoo Temple. They helped the saints when they had their exodus in 1846. Being forced to leave, they congregated over 400 wagons and over 5,000 exiles that camped in hundreds of beds in the freezing snow, protected only by the trees. Father gave them 60 bushels of corn and supplies from his store without charge. This was not the last time he fed the destitute saints. Upon settling in Council Bluffs, Iowa, across the river from Winter Quarters, Nebraska, the next gathering place for the saints, Alfred again prospered from the toil of his hands and shared with the bewildered saints. He was asked by Brigham Young to return to Nauvoo to help the lingering saints and feed the immigrating saints from other countries. 5 years Alfred and family stayed behind to feed the help saints traveling to the Promised Land. Alfred finally came in 1852 to travel to the Valley of the Mountains. The trail of tears and laughter had finally come, but not without a cost. The trip was hot and dusty, and each wagon kicked up volumes of dust. Dust filled Alfred's lungs, and he succumbed to a lung ailment only a few months after his arrival in Ogden. He was the 3rd person buried in the Ogden Cemetery. Alfred's dream was fulfilled. He led his family to the gathering place in the tops of the mountains, as prophesied by Isaiah. Alfred's legacy lived on in his sons, John and Warren, who continued to assist immigrants with supplies from their well-stocked store in Ogden, making 9 trips across the plains in wagons, bringing walking and stranded immigrants to Utah. On January 21, 1886, in the Logan Temple, all 12 children were sealed to their parents, some living, some by proxy, with Alfred Bosworth and Polly Barbara Child, the foundation of a family of saints, which now numbers in the thousands, even tens of thousands.